Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Here I come with the second video, that is meninges, which is quite simple once you understand it. Also, I have drawn many diagrams which I would recommend you to draw as well, along with making notes, because this way it will help you learn 2 times better, right? So let's start it. Introduction of meninges. Meninges are the protective membranous coverings of the central nervous system, that is the brain and spinal cord. So the meninges cover the brain and the spinal cord. They are three in number from outside to inside. They are dura mater, arachnoid mater and the pia mater. The dura mater is mesodermal in origin, while the arachnoid and pia mater are ectodermal in origin. Let's see in the diagram. In this diagram, this is the anterior side, this is the posterior side, and we are seeing from the lateral side. Okay, so the black part is the central nervous system, the cerebrum, midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata and the spinal cord. The red adherent part is the pia mater, the blue part is the arachnoid mater and the green part is the dura mater. Let's label it. The red part is the pia mater, the blue part is the arachnoid mater and the green part is the dura mater. Talking about the dura mater first, it is a tough, opaque and thick outermost covering of the central nervous system, which is also called as pachymeninx. It has two layers. The outer layer is known as endosteal or the periosteal and the inner layer is known as the meningeal layer. The outer layer, it is stuck to the bone. So in this diagram, this is the dura mater and outside this lies the skull, that is the bony part. So the outer layer of the dura mater, it is adherent to the bony part and the inner layer, that is the meningeal layer. The second layer is the arachnoid mater. It is a spider-like avascular layer, means it is devoid of the blood vessels, deep to the dura mater. The spider-like appearance is due to the trabeculae, which means the meshwork, which connects the arachnoid mater to the pia mater. In this diagram, you can see these blue lines. These are the trabeculae, which connects the arachnoid mater to the pia mater. Third is the pia mater. It is a highly vascular, thin layer which is closely adherent to the brain and the spinal cord. Means this layer is stuck to the brain and spinal cord. The arachnoid and the pia mater together are known as leptomeninges. Now coming to intracranial meninges. As we know, the meninges cover the brain as well as the spinal cord. So the part which covers the brain is the intracranial meninges, which we will discuss in this video, and in the next video we will go to the spinal meninges. Okay, so cranial dura mater first. The two layers, the periosteal and the meningeal layer, are firmly adherent to each other except at two kinds of places. First, where they split to enclose the dural venous sinuses in which the venous blood flows. So what it is telling, that these two layers, which are the two layers of dura mater, they are adherent to each other except at two places. First, where they split to enclose the dural venous sinuses. So this is the dural venous sinus. And these cells which you see here are the endothelial cells. Now in this dural venous sinus, the venous blood flows. Next, where the inner meningeal layer is folded to form the dural septa. So this is the dural septa. The inner meningeal layer folds to form the dural septa. Next is epidural hemorrhage. When there is severe injury to the head, especially on the temporal side, means above the ear, the meningeal artery and the vein present in the epidural space. What is epidural space? It is the space between the two layers of the dura mater. So the meningeal artery and the vein, these are the meningeal artery and vein present within the epidural space, ruptures producing a lens-shaped epidural hemorrhage. So when these artery and the veins rupture, they produce hemorrhage which is almost like a lens shape, so it is known as epidural hemorrhage. Now we will understand about the dural septa or the folds. These are the infoldings of the meningeal layer of dura mater, which are 4 in number. So this is the dural septa. The first one is known as the falx cerebri, then the tentorium cerebelli, the diaphragma cellae, and the falx cerebelli. The first one was cerebri and the last one is the cerebelli. Okay, now we will try to understand this diagram. This view we can imagine when we remove the skull cap or the vault of the skull. So this is the anterior part, this is the posterior part, this part is the right side, and this part is the left side. Try to imagine it in 3D. So the red one is the falx cerebri, which lies in the vertical plane. The green one is the tentorium cerebelli. It lies in the horizontal plane. The blue one is the diaphragma cellae. And this grey one is the falx cerebelli. Now we will learn each of them in detail. First is the falx cerebri. It is a vertical sickle-shaped fold. So this lies in the vertical plane and it is a sickle-shaped fold present between the two cerebral hemispheres. So the falx cerebri is in the between. On the right side is one half of the cerebral hemisphere and on the other side is the second half of the cerebral hemispheres. Attachment anteriorly to the crista galli and posteriorly to the upper surface of the tentorium cerebelli. So this is the crista galli. So the anterior end of the falx cerebri is attached to the crista galli and posteriorly it is attached to the mid part of the tentorium cerebelli. Then the upper border is attached to the vault of the skull and the lower border is free. So as we have removed the vault of the skull, we cannot see the attachment of falx cerebri here, but from the upper part it is attached to the vault of the skull and the lower part is attachment free, that is, it does not have any attachment. In this diagram we can see this is the vault of skull and this whole part is the falx cerebri. So superiorly it is attached to the vault of skull. Now it encloses 3 dural venous sinuses. The first one is known as the superior sagittal sinus, the second is the inferior sagittal sinus and third is the straight sinus. The superior sagittal sinus, it lies along its upper border. So imagining this hole as the tentorium cerebri, this is the upper border which has the superior sagittal sinus. This is the lower border which has the inferior sagittal sinus. And this is the posterior attachment of the falx cerebri which has the straight sinus. Second, the tentorium cerebelli. Horizontal fold of dura mater which forms the roof of posterior cranial fossa. In this diagram, this is the anterior cranial fossa. The middle part is the middle cranial fossa and this posterior part is the posterior cranial fossa. So this is the anterior cranial fossa, middle cranial fossa and the posterior cranial fossa. So what is written? It forms the roof of posterior cranial fossa. Here is the posterior cranial fossa. So this tentorium cerebelli forms the roof of it. Second point, it lies between the cerebrum on the top and cerebellum below. So above this tentorium cerebelli lies the cerebral hemispheres and below this lies the cerebellar hemispheres. Attachment, anterior border is free forming a tentorial notch. This is the anterior border, which has no attachment, it is free, and hence the notch formed is known as tentorial notch. While the posterior border is attached to the lips of transverse sulcus. So when you will see the skull from inside, you will see the transverse sulcus. So the posterior border of the tentorium cerebelli, it is attached to the transverse sulcus. It encloses two pairs of venous sinuses. First is the superior petrosal sinus and second is the transverse sinus. The superior petrosal sinus is along the anterior half of the attached border and the transverse sinus is along the posterior half of the attached border. So this hole is the attached border. The anterior half of attached border is this and the posterior half is this. So to see the sinuses, this is the anterior half of the attached border. So here lies the superior petrosal sinus. And this is the posterior half of the attached border. So here lies the transverse sinus. So this is all about falx cerebri and the tentorium cerebelli. Next, the diaphragma sellae. Small circular fold of dura mater forming the roof of pituitary fossa. So here is the pituitary fossa on which the diaphragma sellae lies. The aperture in the center provides passage to the stalk of pituitary gland. This means that here is the aperture in the middle, so it provides passage to the stalk of pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland lies below this diaphragma sellae and above this lies the hypothalamus. Next, falx cerebelli. It is a small sickle-shaped vertical fold of the dura mater present between the posterior part of the two cerebellar hemisphere and it encloses the occipital sinus. So this is the falx cerebelli. It lies between the posterior part of the two cerebellar hemispheres and it encloses occipital sinus. So to see occipital sinus, here is the occipital sinus. Talking about details of dural venous sinuses. Venous blood and CSF flows in them. So in that sinuses we find venous blood and the CSF. They have no valves, drain finally into the internal jugular vein. Now the unpaired sinuses are the superior sagittal sinus, the inferior sagittal sinus, straight sinus and the occipital sinus. This is the superior sagittal sinus, the inferior, the straight sinus and the occipital sinus. These four are unpaired. And the paired ones are superior petrosal sinus, inferior petrosal sinus. So here are the superior petrosal sinus. This is the inferior petrosal sinus. Next, transverse sinus, sigmoid sinus and the cavernous sinus. These are the transverse sinus, sigmoid sinus. They are S-shaped. These are the sigmoid sinus. And anteriorly, here are the cavernous sinus. At the external occipital protuberance, the superior sagittal sinus communicates with the left transverse, occipital and the straight sinus. So what they are saying, the superior sagittal sinus at a point here, it communicates with the left transverse, the straight sinus and the occipital sinus. So this point, it is known as confluence of sinuses. Confluence of sinuses. So this was all about the cranial dura mater. Now we will come to cranial arachnoid mater. It is the middle layer of the meninges and extends downward as spinal arachnoid up to the level of S2 vertebra. The processes of arachnoid are the arachnoid villi, which are the finger-like processes which arise from the surface of arachnoid and perforates in the dural venous sinuses. It helps in absorption of the CSF by conveying it to the bloodstream via the sinuses. This means, suppose Okay, so this layer is the arachnoid layer. These two are the layers of dura mater. So the arachnoid villi, they are like this, finger-like projections which arise from the arachnoid matter. They arise from the arachnoid matter, perforates the dural venous sinuses. These are the venous sinuses, and it helps in absorption of the CSF by conveying it to the bloodstream via the sinuses. What are arachnoid granulations? They are large clusters of the arachnoid villi concerned with the absorption of CSF. Now the cranial pia mater. Thin vascular membrane which faithfully sticks to the brain even in its sulcus. So when you see the brain, there are many sulci and the gyri. So the cranial pia mater, it sticks to the brain even in that sulci. Then the processes of pia mater. Perivascular sheaths around the vessels entering or leaving the brain. So all the vessels which enter or leave the brain, they have the sheath of pia mater around them. Second, septor folds dipping in the sulci and the fissures of brain. Third, sheets of cranial matter. And fourth, tela choroidi, which are folds of pia mater in the third and the fourth ventricle. Now, the subarachnoid space. It is the space present between the arachnoid and the pia mater, which is filled by the CSF coming from the ventricular system of the brain. It is traversed by the trabeculae passing from the arachnoid to the pia mater. So since the trabeculae pass from the arachnoid to pia mater, it crosses the subarachnoid space which lies between the arachnoid and the pia mater. The arteries and veins of the brain lies in this space. The subarachnoid spaces present dilatations filled with CSF called the subarachnoid cisterns. The three important cisterns are the cerebellomedullary cistern, or also known as cisterna magna, the pontine cistern, and the interpeduncular cistern. First, the cerebellomedullary cistern or the cisterna magna. In this diagram, this is the anterior view and this is the posterior view. Cerebral hemisphere, midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, spinal cord, and at the back side is the cerebellum. So, cerebellomedullary cistern is the largest cistern which lies between the medulla oblongata and the inferior surface of the cerebellum. So, this is the medulla oblongata and this is the inferior surface of the cerebellum. So, this highlighted part, it is the cerebellomedullary cistern. CSF from the fourth ventricle drains into this cistern through the foramen of Magendie. Okay, so this yellow part is the fourth ventricle. This rounded part, it is the foramen of Magendie. So the CSF from fourth ventricle drains into this part, that is the cerebellomedullary cistern, through the foramen of Magendie. Second one is the pontine cistern. It is present on the ventral surface of the pons. So this is the pons, this is the ventral surface. So here this is the pontine cistern. This was the cisterna magna. Third is the interpeduncular cistern. In this diagram, this is the anterior view of the brain stem. So, if you have studied the midbrain, you must be knowing these two are the cerebral peduncles. So, the word itself says interpeduncular, means between the two peduncles. So, this space between the two cerebral peduncles is the interpeduncular cistern. This was it for the video. The next video will be of spinal meninges. Up till then, stay tuned. Goodbye.